Strap in, folks. This game's for all the marbles.
He's on a break. Okay.
Hi everyone! Welcome to the stream. It's time for Sovereign Citizen Saturday. Hope you're having a good weekend so far. There's no particular theme today for Sovereign Citizen Saturday. Sometimes we do like, oh, more citizens, or a specific thing, or like, oh, here's sovereign citizens that are in court. Today it's just whatever sovereign citizen videos. So that includes sovereign citizens, Moorish citizens, freemen of the land, courtrooms, traffic stops. I have one today where a sovereign citizen tries to react to a police training video about sovereign citizens. So that'll be fun. Hello, everyone. Oh, for those of you who are fans of the D&D stream we do over on Actual Jake's channel, guess what finally came in the mail for me? I'm very excited. Hold on. It's a professor hat that actually fits and doesn't look like it cost $2. So that's nice. It's a much nicer professor hat. This is the hat my D&D character in the channel icon is wearing. So, I think it looks good. In terms of D&D character, this isn't something I would wear out publicly, obviously. But for like a D&D prop, I like it. It's pretty good. Pretty good. I really like the flower thing on it. That was separate from the hat. I think I've talked about it before. This is basically a hair clip with a protractor, some feathers, and like a copper flower that clipped onto the headband of the like steampunk goggles, and that all just went on a hat that's separate. So cool stuff. I really like D&D. It's a fun time. So, how y'all doing? Good? The smoke is so bad here that it looks like a thick fog and tastes like a campfire. Ooh. Stay safe, Sushi Mom. That sounds scary. Daddy Sume says, I found a video about the politics of traffic engineering. I know. I did subscribe to that channel. I clicked on the link. It's the channel that does the Here's Your Problem or whatever, right? Where they talk about, like, disasters of infrastructure. I did subscribe to them, I think. Oh, I didn't. Maybe I bookmarked them. I'll check it out sometime. I'm sure it's good. So what have y'all been up to? Anything interesting? I haven't been. I've just been hanging out.
About the tools of capitalism.
With 100 bits, Bumble Homestead was feeling pretty down today. Thanks for streaming something distracting. Oh, no problem. I'm sorry you're not feeling great today. Where did I put the omeprazole? Hey, Baja, could you bring me some of that omeprazole so my stomach acid doesn't eat the lining of my stomach? I'd appreciate it. Started school. Oh, good. I'm glad your school's doing online. Some places aren't. Baja and I were just talking about a little while ago. The University of Michigan is doing in-person classes for at least some of them, I guess. And that's going to go very poorly. Even in East Lansing, where Michigan State University is, they were having some issue where they're having people go into quarantine again for 2 weeks. Daddy Sume says, that link is a perfect one of the first 5 episodes, which is on a separate channel. You probably subbed to the actual podcast channel. That's why I sent it, because it's not on that channel. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Oh, why isn't the window capture working? Let me fix this. There we go. Anyone who missed it yesterday, by the way, we started a Chudwatch Hall of Fame. And oh boy, go check that out on my YouTube channel if you didn't see it. I didn't take it.
No. You took the bottle from this room to there. I want to balance it on your head. Sit straight up like a proper lady. There you go.
Nothing this fancy this weekend, but next weekend going camping with some friends. I hope you enjoy the camping. I gotta get like an arm thing so I can have that tablet somewhere so I can look at chat.
Yeah.
Earth is dying anyway, might as well go out with a bang. I guess.
A proper lady is someone that sits up straight. Or at least that's what they teach you in etiquette school.
Guess I'm nothing but a harlot then.
Same.
Anyway, let's get to some of these videos.
I've been told to fuck off. That makes me sad.
Oh. There was an LOL. That's the mantra I keep saying as I drink myself stupid. Yeah. Been there. Better to be a harlot than a charlotte? I don't even get that. Is a charlotte a thing? Anyway. Let's go to some of these Sovereign Citizen videos. So this is a Sovereign Citizen. I already skipped ahead to where he starts the video because the intro was boring. But this guy's like does like a multi-part series where he's criticizing this police training video that talks about the Sovereign Citizen movement. Okay? And instead of capturing his screen like I'm doing, like a normal human being, and just having like a screen share or whatever, he literally has a camera and he's filming his computer screen. So, I guess on top of the things sovereign citizens don't understand, under law, you should write technology. Anyway, let's see what this guy has to say about this police training video. Interestingly, in the intro, he says, like, I used to be part of the sovereign citizen movement. But, like, I watched a little bit of this, and he's still, like, going to bat for sovereign citizens, which makes me think he's not really an ex-sovereign citizen. I think he just kind of still is, but he doesn't want to be associated with being called that. So anyway, let's see what he has to say.
About the tools of
MMO addicted. You look very nice today, Hannah. Nice blouse. I think that's the word. I mean your top. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. It's very comfortable, too.
Cops, prosecutors, or especially judges to comment on my points. Speak up and say something. Why do you have the comments disabled if you didn't have something to hide? That's why so-called sovereign citizen people are angry. There's no transparency.
I imagine it's because they don't really care if you guys watch the video, but at the end of the day, the video is probably being put up for training purposes for various police departments. So it's just on YouTube for a quick ability for them to pull it up for some sort of training. Like, hey, watch this video so you know what sovereign citizens are. They don't really care if the public watches it or not. They'd probably prefer they don't. But for ease of access, it's available publicly on YouTube. And they just turn the comments off because they don't want to moderate that. That's not what the video's up for. It's up so that various departments around the area it's made or whatever can check out the video.
Everything is hidden. They want to know why the government, cops, prosecutors, judges can break their own laws while the rest of us have to be held accountable to it. Now, again, I don't consider myself a part of this anymore. I have a driver's license. I pay taxes.
So you believe the sovereign citizen stuff, but you're also smart enough to know it's all BS. But you think that it's legitimate in the sense that somehow what sovereign citizens are saying is legally true, when it is not. Like, the implication that sovereign citizens are somehow inherently right by letter of law, but that it just doesn't hold up in reality, is completely untrue. Sovereign citizens' understanding of the law is completely wrong. It's not that the government isn't upholding the correct version of the law. It's that the version of the law that sovereign citizens ascribe to is false. It's fake! It's not real! That's why. And we can talk about, like, cops not being held to certain standards and, like, with qualified immunity getting away with a ton of stuff that they shouldn't get away with. That's a completely fair discussion. But to be like, the cops can break the law, why can't I? Is the opposite of what you should be doing in regard to that. You should be saying, no one else can break the law, right? Like, driver's licenses are a law. Having your car registered, that's also a law. Murder's a law. If a cop kills someone, they should be tried for murder. Like, that's reasonable. It's not reasonable to be a child and say, like, I think they break the law, so I should get to, too. It's childish.
I'm a good little boy because I've learned the hard way. There is no due process anymore. There are no rights. You are a slave here.
You have rights, but you also have responsibilities. You have a responsibility to follow the law. That includes things like having a driver's license. That is not against the Constitution, no matter how much you people screech about it and quote an outdated version of Black's Law Dictionary from 1930. It doesn't change the fact that it is not only legal but responsible for the government to put driver's license requirements to drive on public roads. You are delusional. Knock it off.
And you'd better get your license where the government gives you permission to do what you want to do, and you better abide by their rules, or they will do whatever they want to you. And that's why a lot...
Not whatever they want, whatever the law says is the punishment for that. If you're driving without a driver's license, and the law says that they can impound your car, and they do that, that's not doing whatever they want. That's applying a punishment that society as a whole, through our representative democracy, has decided is reasonable for that crime.
That's right.
Okay?
Propaganda.
Okay. Thank you, Batty Bell, for following. Welcome to the stream.
A lot of these people go off the deep end and get violent because they don't understand why that's happening in America. And I think the kind of questions that I'm going to pose are well worthy of it being answered. And I think about 90% of Americans, real Americans, would want the answers to these questions. So let's watch some of this video.
You need to know about the sovereign citizen
Oh, God, dude, learn to capture your screen.
movement.
I'm Sadie Darnell, Sheriff of Alachua County. This video is being produced by the Florida Sheriff's Association and the U.S. Attorney's Office to raise awareness for law enforcement regarding the sovereign citizen movement and how they may impact us. Sovereign citizen is a catch-all phrase used to describe a variety of anti-government groups and individuals.
No. Stop right there for start.
This part is where I decided I was going to do this video for sure. Get a load of this shit that he's about to say. It's bananas.
Yes, there are some lunatics in this group of people. Of course there is. There's going to be in any group of people. Are they anti-government? No, they're not anti-government. They're in fact very pro-government.
Out of the weeks and weeks we've watched Sovereign Citizens on this channel, I'd love to hear from you people. What percentage of them seemed like people that are very pro-government? They're so anti-government that they make up fake reasons that they don't have to follow the law. I'm very pro-government. I just think that I shouldn't have to follow the rules. Okay? I like the government as long as it protects me and lets me do whatever I want without recourse. Then you're not pro-government. You're pro-imaginary government that gives you all the rights of a citizen with none of the responsibilities. That's not being pro-government. You friggin' idiot. What are you talking about? I have a right to travel in my automobile. The government can't tell me what to do. Well, they can if you're on public roads. Welcome to adulthood.
That is a horrendous misrepresentation of what these people are about. And it goes to show what they're teaching police officers. Why would they
There are plenty of things to criticize the police over. This ain't it, Chief. The police are correct in saying that sovereign citizens on the whole are an anti-government movement. Because they are. Because they not only disregard the laws as written, but they think that they can bring their own interpretation of the law and completely use it to disregard the series of rules we actually have in society as determined by the government that is founded, like, by the people, right? Collectively as a society, we vote for people to go to Congress, whether it's like your state Senate or whether it's like the federal Congress, and make laws, right? and then judges rule on those laws. It's pretty simple.
Teach such a thing? Why would they teach wannabe police officers that
They're not wannabe police officers. They're probably actual police officers. This isn't something I don't think you get in your, like, I think this is something that, like, hey guys, sending an email out to the department, watch this video on your lunch or whatever, learn about what these idiots believe, because you're probably going to run into them.
these so-called sovereign citizen folks are anti-government when the vast majority, again, I'll use that 80% figure, are absolutely not. They're pro-
His percentage numbers are all over the place. He said 99%, 90%, 80%. It's almost like he's pulling these numbers out of nowhere. I'm shocked.
honest government that follows their own laws.
But the problem is, you don't understand the government's own laws. You've either made up or heard someone else make up completely ridiculous statements and interpretations of the law, like that you think you don't need a driver's license, or how court works. We've seen plenty of sovereign citizen videos where they try and represent themselves pro se, and they think that, like, oh, my birth certificate's really the legal entity me, and you're like, you can't do anything to me, the living individual. Like, it's completely cuckoo bananas. Like, I don't care what their intention is. If their intention is like, I just want the government to follow their own laws. Like, I understand that might be some of their intentions in their head, but that's not how it happens as action, because their interpretations of the laws are not only, like, wrong, but destructively wrong. That's the issue. So you can't be like, how do I put this? If I think that it's pro-government to somehow try and, I don't know, dissolve the federal government, and I'm like, this is a pro-government move, nonetheless, my actions are not pro-government. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't care what your intentionality is going into being a sovereign citizen. Because of your actions and your false interpretations, the result is a disrespect for the government in which we like, live. Right? Okay. Thank you to Sergeant Four-Leaf PUBG for following.
It's as simple as that.
Who share a common belief that our United States government, including our court system and law enforcement, is a fraud and they are exempt from our authority.
Okay, is a fraud. Well, if you look at traffic tickets, which is
You're literally doing the thing they just said you were gonna do, guy. Like, they think they're exempt from the law and traffic tickets, and you're like, well, actually, let me explain why that is the case. Like, dude, you're literally doing the thing. You're doing the thing that they're talking about.
is what I was studying and trying to deal with. Now, I'm 100%
Studying. By studying, he means he watched some YouTube videos and went on some sovereign citizen forums, and they told him ridiculous beliefs. That's not studying. That's regurgitating false information that you found on sovereign citizen forums.
pro-traffic law. Of course I am. I have a problem with government making money off of traffic tickets because I believe that creates a conflict of interest and an inherent bias.
It may. It doesn't change the fact that they are legal. If you think that there's something wrong with the way traffic tickets function in our society, and that's a completely fine belief to hold, then you need to petition your senators, your Congress people in general, to make laws that change how that happens. Or if it's on the local level, which traffic tickets tend to either be on the state or local level, talk to your state senators, talk to your city council members, and try and figure out ways in which you can improve the way the system works. Do you understand that? Does that make sense? I think that makes sense.
How does it not? If government makes money, don't they benefit from every single guilty verdict that's rendered? Now, what was just said, I wanted to...
Government, including our court system and law enforcement, is a fraud and they are exempt from our
The
authority.
fraud part. we get traffic tickets and we're going into a court being asked to plead guilty or not guilty. What is with this guilty and not guilty issue when no crime has happened?
Traffic offenses, okay? That's breaking the law. There are traffic laws. It's why they're called traffic laws. Some areas, traffic laws are considered civil offenses, but nonetheless, you're still breaking traffic laws, and a law means that it's a rule you can't break. You don't literally need a victim. We've talked about this. Sovereign citizens believe that in order to have a crime, you need a victim, or whatever. They get this from somewhere stupid. Is it corpus delicti? Hold on. Corpus delicti. Doon. Yeah, okay. So corpus delicti is a term from Western jurisprudence referring to the principle that a crime must be proved to have occurred before a person can be convicted of committing that crime. Sometimes they'll take corpus delicti, sovereign citizens will, and they'll use a specific definition. An example of corpus delicti, for instance, can be a witness to a crime, right? That's someone saying, a crime happened, or like someone who was literally like stabbed, and they say, that guy stabbed me, right? It's evidence that the crime happened. It's grounds for understanding that a crime has actually occurred. However, they take that broad definition of, like, evidence that a crime has occurred and standing to, like, charge someone with a crime and bring it down to, there needs to be a victim who literally said I committed a crime against them. It's not accurate. It's not how the law works. But these people think that because there's not someone who is literally harmed by them speeding in the moment, even though speeding is clearly a crime that endangers society as a whole, they think it doesn't count as a crime when in fact it does. It does. The person you've committed a crime against is the public as a whole, and in this situation, the police and the government are stand-ins for society who are going to apply that law to you because you have broken it, right? They are protecting society as a whole and standing in for them by when you speed, they pull you over and give you a ticket. That's how that works.
And well over 90 to 95% plus of the traffic instances in that traffic court. Traffic court is a civil matter. It is civil. Anyone who studies...
I think that depends on the area, but yeah, a lot of places it's a civil court. It doesn't change the fact that you've still broken laws, right? It's fine. You can still plead guilty or not guilty.
Law knows this is a civil matter. Of course it is, because there's no crime. Crime applies to criminal procedure.
Traffic laws. You broke a law.
So if we are being brought into a court...
Civil offenses are still offenses. Yep.
And then asked to participate in a criminal proceeding... Okay, are we guilty or are we not guilty? When you're in a civil proceeding, you're never asked to, are you guilty or not guilty? It doesn't apply to a civil proceeding. So why are we being brought into a criminal proceeding? That's...
Because traffic laws are sort of an interesting area of the law, and they're sort of their own thing, because while they are treated as civil offenses, nonetheless, it's still based on you breaking civil law, right? It's kind of an interesting mix. Like, it might be a civil court, but it's also a traffic court, right? You're still being brought in to say guilty or not guilty for a crime you committed. Like, I understand it's complicated, and I'm not going to pretend I understand it completely. I'm not a lawyer, but it's fine. Like, do you not understand that there can be parts in the law that are, like, gray areas? Do you not understand that, like, it can be like, alright, this is a civil offense, but nonetheless, you need to say whether you did or didn't do the crime, and then we can talk about the ticket, and if you go to court, they usually reduce your fine or whatever.
Called fraud. Please answer that.
It's not fraud. It's not fraud.
Prosecutors, cops, and judges.
Now to Georgia, where the streets outside a county courthouse were quiet again after a bloody shootout on its steps. Just before lunch, this was the sound of the gunfight outside the Forsyth County Courthouse north of Atlanta.
Cascadia 93 is someone who's been in civil court twice after a major car accident. I can tell you that the processes aren't all that dissimilar.
Recorded on a cell phone by an eyewitness. Police say that Dennis Marks, a self-described anti-government sovereign citizen, was behind the wheel of this silver SUV.
Let's even get into this more, because I want more clear answers on this. Why are traffic tickets civil offenses? Because this is something I'd like to know clearer. Because someday I'd like to debate a sovereign citizen, and I want it more specific. Here's Michigan, right? Okay? I live in Michigan, so let's see what Michigan has to say, and this is going to vary from state to state. A traffic civil infraction case begins when a law enforcement officer issues a ticket. This doesn't say exactly why it is, though. Some of the more common traffic and civil infraction cases are speeding, careless driving, blah, blah, blah. I know, but why? Was your traffic ticket... Was the ticket a civil traffic ticket? Was your traffic ticket a civil traffic ticket or a traffic offense or both? Okay. So there are traffic tickets and traffic offenses. One is criminal and one is an infraction. It's very important to first understand what type of ticket you've been issued. A civil traffic ticket is an infraction and usually means you'll have to pay a monetary fine. Criminal means that the police are charging you with a crime. If you're convicted of a criminal offense, meaning you lose, you still have to pay a fine, but additionally you could lose your driver's license, be put on probation, and in some cases go to jail. It can be confusing as for either a civil traffic infraction or a criminal traffic offense, you should get a citation or ticket from the officer. You may be charged with a criminal offense and not be arrested. To make matters more confusing, the ticket or citation you receive could be both civil infractions and criminal offenses on it. Your charge was reckless driving. Basically, it's mostly based on intent. Oh, interesting. As an example, you are stopped by the police for traveling 90 miles per hour in a posted 45 miles per hour zone. The ticket you receive indicates the officer is citing you for speeding, a civil infraction, and also for driving to endanger, a criminal offense. Both charges are on the same ticket citation, but each charge has different consequences. To understand whether you have been cited you first need to carefully review the front of the citation. Refer to the bottom of the ticket where there are 4 boxes. These boxes are the fastest way to determine whether you're being charged with a criminal traffic offense or whether there is just a civil ticket requiring payment of a fine at most. There are also boxes in the middle of the citation where it will tell you are being cited for and whether it is criminal or civil. This article focuses primarily on the difference between all civil infractions and criminal application boxes. The other two are arrest and warning, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Interesting. Let me see if I can find further. So there are traffic offenses and there are traffic citations. Hold on. How do traffic violations differ from other crimes? Generally, minor traffic offenses like speeding and running a stop sign or a red light are treated differently. Altered Rune with 5 bits. I had to dip out from the last stream early. Caitlin Bennett made me start to break out of it in hives, so F poop curl. Honestly, you should have stuck around. That video made it into... We created, just for that video because of how great it got at the end, we created the Chud Watch Hall of Fame, and that's the first inductee. So... You should approach Legal Eagle to see if he wants to take part in Sovereign Citizen Saturday. Oh, as fun as that would be, he's a huge YouTuber. I would have no way of getting into contact with him, and there's no way he would do it. I wouldn't blame him either. Like, I get it. He has a great channel, though. Check him out. Generally, minor traffic offenses like speeding and running a stop sign or a red light are treated differently than more serious violations of the law. The penalties for minor traffic violations are less severe and the court procedures less formal. And in most states, traffic court, where cases involving minor driving violations typically go, is different from criminal court. For example, a drunk driving conviction often leads to jail time and license suspension. And anyone accused of driving under the influence, DUI, as most other crimes, has a right to a jury trial. With most traffic violations, on the other hand, a fine is the worst that can happen. Jail isn't usually among the possible penalties, and license suspension is typically on the table only if the driver has multiple recent traffic convictions. Also, motorists accused of breaking traffic laws usually don't have the right to have a jury decide their case. In most cases, if you can test a citation, a bench trial where a judge determines guilt or innocence is the only option. And although the government has the burden of proof in criminal and traffic cases, meaning the state must prove guilt to get a conviction, the standards of proof sometimes differ. In criminal cases, regardless of the state, the prosecution must prove all elements of the offense beyond a reasonable doubt. But in some states, minor traffic violations aren't considered crimes, they're civil offenses. So in these states, the government might be held to a lesser standard of proof for traffic cases. For example, in New York, the standard of proof for a traffic violation is clear and convincing evidence, and in Oregon, the state needs to prove traffic offenses only by a preponderance of the evidence. So far, it's seeming it has to do with the penalties. If it were treated as a criminal matter, then you'd be more likely to have something like jail time, when really that's a waste of everyone's time and resources. So they're suing you civilly, or suing is probably the wrong word. They're charging you civilly because it's an infraction of a traffic law, and they're going to charge you money for it, and that's why it's differentiated from a criminal traffic infraction in which you can get your license revoked and jail time. So this guy's basically begging to be put in jail for minor traffic infractions. Let me see if we can read one more thing, and then we'll go back to the video. Difference between a civil traffic ticket citation and a criminal traffic ticket citation. Civil traffic ticket. A traffic ticket is simply a form given to a motorist or pedestrian whom the officer has observed or believed has violated a civil law, such as running a stoplight, speeding, making an illegal turn, crossing the street illegally, or committing non-moving offense like a parking meter violation. Tickets are forms listed... Tickets are forms listing a number of violations that the officer merely checks off and advises the violator of the fine involved. It also informs you how to respond by mailing in the form and check for the fine, blah, 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 blah. Civil versus criminal. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. I don't know a succinct definition, so let's find one, shall we? The American legal system addresses the wrongdoings that people commit with two different types of cases, civil and criminal. Crimes are generally offenses against the state, even if the immediate harm is done to an individual, and are accordingly prosecuted by the state. Civil cases, on the other hand, typically involve disputes between individuals regarding the legal duties and responsibilities they owe to one another. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay. So if you, commit murder, that's a criminal offense because you've committed crimes against the state. Even though the victim is, of course, the person you murdered, nonetheless, it's considered a crime against the state. It's more severe. Civil infractions more have to do with the duties we have between one another, which is why you can be, sued for criminal negligence, and that would be a civil case because you have a duty to one another. And the same thing applies for traffic tickets, except you can't have someone who's I saw you speeding. You're endangering me specifically, because that would be ridiculous and it would take too much time. So the state becomes the stand-in for society at large for traffic tickets, which are civil infractions having to do with our duties to one another in society. A duty including, not speeding, driving reasonably, driving with a license. These things are civil offenses because they have to do with civil duties to one another. Gotcha. Makes sense. We got it, folks. We got it. We learn something new every day.
B, carrying an assault rifle, tear gas, pepper spray, 2 handguns, a bomb, and flex ties that he planned to use to restrain people. Marx was part of an underground movement that believes its members don't have to follow the law. The government calls them domestic terrorists. They public...
Okay, now this person is an extremist. He does not represent the vast majority, but note how this is the only thing that gets put in the news. Never the people like...
I mean, if they put most sovereign citizen stuff in the news, it would look ridiculous. We watch stuff here for funsies, but if you put that stuff on the news, people would still be like, wow, sovereign citizens are idiots. This just happens to be newsworthy. People being stupid, I hate to break it to you, not typically newsworthy. Happens everywhere, all the time, every day.
Like me, who are simply questioning the government and saying, how can you deny us due process? For instance, in a
No one's denying you due process.
traffic matter.
Oh my god, in a traffic matter, he's talking about due process because he wants a jury trial. It has been shown, and I've seen entire videos about this, basically, when the government and when the Constitution was written, when it says you are afforded a jury trial, it means, like, in criminal offenses over a certain amount. Because even when the Constitution was written, after the fact, when they set up courts that the Founding Fathers, who wrote and signed the Constitution, courts that they were a part of, still, if there were certain infractions under a certain amount, they wouldn't give them a jury trial. That's always been a thing in the law. When they're talking about you have a right to a jury trial, the Supreme Court has found they mean over a certain amount of punishment. Like if you have, I think it's over, if you have the potential to go to jail for over 6 months, or if it's like a year or a certain amount of a fine, then you have a right to a jury trial. But under that, it's considered like you get a bench trial just because it's quicker and it's not worth people's time considering it's such a low offense. This is something that is not new. It isn't something that, like, got perverted over time. The same thing was happening in 1789 when the Constitution was signed as it is nowadays, right? It's never been the case that basic things like traffic tickets, or back in the day, whatever the equivalent to a traffic ticket would be. Let's say you stole someone's apples. You stole an apple from a cart, and the police take you in. You're not going to get a jury trial for stealing someone's apples, probably, because it's probably just going to be a fine, right? So, this is not new. This is something that's been in, like, American jurisprudence forever. Stop pretending like you're afforded a jury trial for your $30 traffic ticket. It's not the case and never has been.
How can you put us in jail at your whim and never be held liable for it? Or
Because you can put people in jail when they commit crimes. That's when you can do that. Cascadia 93, disorderly conduct, public drunkenness, old school shit like that. That's a good one. Public drunkenness. That's a good one. I can see someone in Philadelphia getting sloshed, and they're like, Paul Revere, I hire you to make silver, and it sucks! Throws the bottle at Paul Revere's, like, silver shop. The police come by. Oi, oi, what's this then? Paul Revere, he owes me money for he made me tainted silver. All right then, Governor, we're gonna, I can't do a voice. You get it. I've painted a picture in your heads. That person probably wouldn't get a jury trial. They'd just go to court and the judge would be like, all right, come on. Daddy Sume with a bit. Golden apples or Discord. Golden apples of Discord must definitely require a jury trial. I don't even know what that means.
responsible in any way, how can you deny and ignore the great writ of habeas corpus? Deny it and ignore it, and never be held responsible or liable. That's the kind of questions most of us have, the vast majority. This is one of these.
Habeas corpus, like, you still have a right to a trial. You just might not have a jury trial. Like, you can have due process and not have a jury trial. Not every trial is a jury trial. Habeas corpus just means your right to due process. And what due process is dependent upon the crime that's being discussed. If it's like you murdered someone, you're right. You have a right to a jury trial, and people are going to listen, and a jury of your peers is going to either find you guilty or not guilty based on the evidence. But like a traffic offense, the habeas corpus involved in that is either you pay the traffic ticket or you can go to traffic court and argue that you shouldn't have it. That's fine. That's still habeas corpus. You've gotten your due process. But due process for one crime is not exactly the same as another crime, or I should say for certain civil offenses or crimes that are below a certain threshold.
These people.
Thank you to Golden apple of discord. The cause of the Trojan War. The completion of the competition between Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Okay. I wasn't familiar with that bit. I'm not super huge on Greek stuff.
People who lost and got angry, but isn't it understandable based on what I just asked?
No, because you're begging the question without having actual answers that you understand. And going into this, there were questions I had, and you know what I did? I Googled it and took 10 minutes, and we all together sat and we watched, and now we know the answer to your questions, because civil infractions have more to do with your duty to others in society, and they're not criminal offenses, and civil offenses don't need a jury trial. Simple. Daddy Sume, you dare not know all the things, Hannah. You have lost my subscription. Well, you win some, you lose some.
That you believe you live in a country that honors its laws and honors the people that live in it, yet clearly does not.
Again, there are a lot of things about the American justice system that we can talk about and how it's not, like, up to the standard it should be, and how a lot of people have been put in jail for really bullshit things, where certain rich people have gone to jail for almost no time for much worse offenses. Like, we can talk about that, and that's fine, but it has nothing to do with your piddly little arguments about traffic tickets and how you're mad that you got one. Like, you know how you don't get a traffic ticket, friends? Follow traffic laws. I've been driving since I was 16. I've been driving for a decade. Never once have I gotten a traffic ticket. Ever. Like, I'm not saying no one's ever unreasonably gotten a traffic ticket they didn't deserve. But if you do, here's the great thing. You get to go to traffic court. And you can argue that to the judge. And maybe they'll be on your side and maybe they won't. But at the end of the day, you have the right to go do that. And if you lose, you pay your money. And you go back home, and you continue to drive. It's fine. It's fine. Out of all the things in the American justice system that need to be fixed, you not liking that traffic tickets are civil offenses is so low on the list, it doesn't even appear. Like, if it was a list and it was on an old-timey scroll, you'd have to, like, unfurl it all the way, look at the back, and then there'd be, like, a panel that you have to open on the back of the scroll that had, like, I don't like getting traffic tickets. It's not worth anyone's time. Stop bitching and just follow traffic laws.
But members have had shootouts with police before.
I'm Pamela Marsh, and I'm the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Florida. There have been numerous encounters by law enforcement with sovereign citizens across the nation and right here in the state of Florida. We've seen sovereign citizens who've created their own driver's license and vehicle tags. They've filed million-dollar false liens against government officials and law enforcement officials. They may challenge the validity of our...
Are you going to talk about this at all, sovereign citizen guy? Or are you just going to be like, oh, well, let's not talk about all the illegal shit sovereign citizens do constantly?
State and national laws. Sovereign citizens may tell you that you have no authority over them, and that they are not within your jurisdiction. But that is simply not true.
Is it?
Yes, it's not true. Oh my god. Is it? Is it though? Yes, it's true. You are under the jurisdiction of the government of the place in which you are, everywhere on the planet, all the time. It wouldn't even matter if you consider yourself not a citizen of the United States. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a citizen of the United States for the laws to apply to you. If someone flies here from France and they break the law, they still are subject to the laws of the land in which they are. If I go to Saudi Arabia for some stupid reason, and I break any law, maybe just existing there because I'm trans. I guess I don't know how Saudi Arabia views trans people. My guess is not super favorably. Either way, let's say I go there. I can't just be like when the cops are like, stop! In the name of Saudi Arabian law, which is clearly how they're going to say it. I can't be like, I'm not a citizen, your laws don't apply to me. Or like, hold on, Freaking Out 99 with 50 bits was helping my parents build a patio in our backyard, so I'm whipped. What have I missed? Just sovereign citizens doing dumb stuff. For instance, there was a guy a while back who went to North Korea. Now, North Korea, I think we all agree, is awful, and its leader is evil. Anyway, the laws there aren't just. Nonetheless, this guy went there, and one of the rules when they were staying at the hotel was you can't go to this certain floor, because I don't know why. I don't know exactly why it was, but one of the rules was you can't go to this specific floor of this hotel. It's that big, like, conical hotel you've seen in North Korea, if you've ever seen any coverage of it. And he was like, I'm gonna go to that floor. So he snuck out, went to that floor of the hotel, got found out, and then was charged with, like, conspiracy against, like, North Korea or something. They made up some BS about, like, oh, he was, like, doing some spy stuff. He wasn't, as far as I know. He was just some idiot tourist who thought it would be fun to break into a specific floor of a hotel he wasn't supposed to. And that dude got charged with what we would consider bogus crimes, because they were, but nonetheless, guess who's in charge in North Korea? The North Korean government. Like, you are bound to the laws of wherever you are, because that's how laws work. Laws are not backed up by, like, this ethereal, like, it's great to have, like, discussions about, oh, let's talk about, like, jurisprudence, and let's talk about, like, the philosophy of the law and how the power of the government comes from that of the governed. And that's true. But also, and just as importantly, the people with the power are the people who can enforce those laws. And in the United States, the people who can enforce laws are the police. So if you get charged with a crime, you can't just be like, you have no jurisdiction over me. Yeah, they do! They do! And watch them put you in jail to prove it. Like, what? Void Harpy, thanks for subscribing. 4-month streak. Nito, been watching your content since super early TBR. You're fantastic, and yeah, be safe, be well. Thank you, Void Harpy. I'm glad you've enjoyed the streams.
Now, a lot of these people do these sorts of things with their driver's licenses, and they file liens. Now,
do these things with their driver's license. That's an interesting way to gloss over the fact that they've made fraudulent driver's licenses and filed liens? You mean filed false liens? You know, a felony? I have a sweet tooth, and even I think this sugar coating's a little bit too thick. Daddy Sume with a bit and a video. Yeah, Starship Troopers, that scene. Can I play this? I don't think I can play this without getting monetization taken away from this video, and I don't want to. Look at Daddy Sume's link if you want a link to Starship Troopers that talks about, like... Starship Troopers is a great movie, by the way. It's a Paul Verhoeven film, the same guy that did RoboCop. It's like a satire of a fascist society. Sargon of Akkad likes this movie unironically, by the way, and not as a satire. He just likes it. Shock. Anyway, the point is that, like, yes, the power of the government comes from the consent of the governed, and what this means is effectively, if you disagree with the government, and enough of society does, inevitably, you will overthrow that government, right? That's what that means. In the meantime, if you're not overthrowing the government has power because they can enforce the laws that they put down. Pretty simple. Daddy Sume with another link. Oh, it's the same one. You just reposted it for people. Gotcha.
My experience has been, when I have heard about a dozen different people filing liens, they go to jail real fast. Okay, because they don't understand what they're doing and they are committing a form of fraud. As to the rest of it with the creating driver's licenses and whatnot, I don't fully understand what they're trying to do. Now, and granted, I have a really thorough and deep understanding.
They what? Hold on, someone said they shut down 8. Did I hear about the main QWebs? Oh yeah. No, it was not 8chan. It was like qmap.pub or something. Anyway, the guy who owned it got doxxed and he took the website down. It's pretty great. Yes, keep clicking my links without thinking, Hannah. I won't take advantage of that. Well, now I'm not going to click any of your links for the rest of the video.
Of what a lot of these groups around the country are studying. And I've studied a ton of law. I even went to college and studied law. So
you went to college and studied law. By the way you worded that, because you didn't say you went to law school, I'm guessing you were on a pre-law program. And the fact that you said you went to college and studied law and didn't say, like, I got my degree in pre-law tells me you took some classes in your program for pre-law and then you dropped out at some point and just started looking at sovereign citizen bullshit. Because if this guy had a degree in pre-law, he would say that. The fact that he doesn't says all you need to know.
I have a really thorough understanding. I consider myself to have a very thorough understanding of a lot of law. I know a lot more than a lot of attorneys do.
There it is. No, you don't. No, you don't, dipshit. You cannot say, oh, I don't have a law degree. I didn't go to law school, but I've Googled a lot of stuff, so I know more than lawyers. No, you don't. The delusions of grandeur. Like, imagine if I was like, I know these surgeons went to medical school for years and they had residencies and internships, but you know what? I watched a lot of surgery videos on YouTube, so I think I can do this. Hand me the scalpel. Rightfully, you would call me delusional. This person is insane.
So, when they're trying to do this, I won't claim to say they have a right to do so. I will just say I don't know exactly what they're doing and how.
I know more than lawyers, but I don't know if it's illegal to falsify a driver's license. These things don't mesh together. You see? You don't.
How it would apply towards any.
Wind chanter with a bit. You can operate on me, Hannah. I trust you. Oh, cool. This'll be fun then. That sounds good. DM Trey with a link. Judge Dredd, I am the law. I can't play that either. I can't play movie clips, guys. I don't want to get DMCA'd.
Any remedy. But as far as the government having jurisdiction over everyone, do they? And what gives them that jurisdiction over everyone? That's what people want to know. If we live in a free country and we are able to go to court and challenge various forms of jurisdiction.
And how's that worked out for you? Have you ever won a case trying to be like, the government has no authority over me. I'm a sovereign citizen. And the judge goes, no, case dismissed. That probably works out for you.
And get dismissals through those challenges. How can the government claim to always have jurisdiction over everyone?
Because they're the government. If you're in their jurisdiction, if you're like in a certain city and a city cop or a county sheriff pulls you over, they have jurisdiction over you. Period. If you could somehow be like, I was out of county lines and it turns out you were and they were out of their jurisdiction, you could win. But like, if it's a state cop, it's a state trooper or something, and you're in that state, or if they're a cop who has jurisdiction in the area where you were arrested or given a ticket or whatever it happens to be, they automatically have jurisdiction over you. They just do. Do you not understand how this works?
Well, part of that I have learned is through our citizenship. If you are a U.S. citizen, I have learned that you absolutely are under their jurisdiction.
Oh no, is he gonna claim he's not a U.S. citizen? Dude, you're definitely a U.S. citizen. Unless you're Canadian, then you're not. Daddy Sume, I was in Canada while I was pissing across the border onto your car. You have no power here. By the way, like I said earlier, even if you aren't a citizen of the United States, if you're in the United States laws apply to you. And if you're in Florida, Florida laws apply to you. Same goes for, like, everything down to, like, your county, your city, whatever. Wherever you are on the planet, if there are laws, they apply to you if you are there. Whether or not you agree with the laws, whether or not the laws are just or evil or whatever, that's a separate discussion. Wherever you are, if there is a government that is functional and you break a law there, then they are going to charge you with a crime or a civil infraction if it's a ticket. Where is this idea coming from that these people think that they can just opt out of society? Guess what, folks? The Joker said it best. We live in a society. We do. It's a meme, but it's also true. The social contract is de facto, friend. You don't have to literally sign it. You're in it, bud. Sorry if that's, like, distressing, but that's the truth. Ace of Thorns, thank you for following. Welcome to the stream.
What you do from there is based on how much you know about the law.
It's our hope that through this training video, you will learn more about what sovereign citizens believe, and that most of all, it will help keep you safe.
Known as sovereign citizens.
Now here goes the promotion of how sovereign citizens are dangerous. Now, I'm not a Christian, and there's a lot of people in this movement who are hardcore, fundamentalist, born-again type Christians. I am basically agnostic to borderline atheist. I think Christian is a load of bullcrap, to put it lightly, as I do any other religion. So it was a very frustrating over 10 years for me to be a part of these groups and deal with these brainwashed religious people.
Stupid religious people, you believe such silly things. Now let me explain why driving my car isn't actually driving. The irony, I can taste it.
It was a huge challenge for me to be up against, and it is brainwashing. They're reading a book claiming that it's a book of facts called the Bible.
I can see him in his sovereign citizen group or whatever. They're reading Bibles in their downtime, and he's like, brainwashed fools. And he has his Black's Law Dictionary 2nd edition from 1930, and he's just reading the page on the definition of driver over and over. So close. He is so close to a revelation, yeah.
Having no idea who the authors were, you can't meet the authors and talk to them, ask them what it was about, describing events that they've never witnessed, and they're holding it out as a truth. That's a form of, that's called lunacy. That's called insanity. Okay, so they have that going against them from my perspective to begin with, but...
And I would say the same thing about you. See how this works? Turnabouts. Fair play. Anyway.
I support much of what the rest of them are about. And again, only a very...
Get this guy for a chick tract! Funny.
Very small.
That does track with the standards we used to have for guests on the show, though, so that makes sense. Oh, do you say something negative about religion? Fine, you qualify. Please come on the show. Regardless of your other stupid beliefs.
A small percentage of these people are dangerous. And yeah, there are lunatics in it, just like there are anywhere else. And yes, there are...
What is that? Oh, some people on here, I forget, don't know. I've been on YouTube, and I've been doing stuff like this for like almost a decade now. Thing we've done on YouTube is there are these fundamentalist comics that are really offensive. They're called chick tracts. And they're made by this like fundamentalist dude named Jack Chick, who's died at this point. But we do dramatic readings of them and like riff on them, sort of like Mystery Science Theater 3000. And we'd have guest stars on to do them with us sometimes. Jake and I, who I do YouTube with. You know him. You might know him on Twitch as Actual Jake. We work together a lot. And we had some real bad guests on in the past. It was embarrassing in hindsight. Logic and Sargon and this chud tracts. Yep.
Some dangerous people just like anywhere else.
Yes, I know the Sargon thing. I'll never live that down. All I can do is do my penance and just every chud watch. Every once in a while, just talk about Sargon and what a monster he is.
Are you going to sit here and tell me that cops as a whole are completely not dangerous? Let me repeat that. Are you going to sit
Free drugs. That still is funny.
here and tell me that the government and cops in general are not dangerous?
Look, I agree. Cops are dangerous. I agree with you. Cops get away with all sorts of things that they shouldn't. But them being dangerous doesn't stop sovereign citizens from also being dangerous. They're not mutually exclusive concepts. You can both be dangerous for different reasons. And I would argue that cops are probably on the whole more dangerous, maybe, because there are more of them, and they have authority over absolutely everyone. And that's a discussion that's being had in our society about, like, what is the role of the police? What rules should we put on the police to make sure that they're held accountable when they have misconduct? These are great things to talk about. But regardless of how that turns out, sovereign citizens are still dangerous individuals. He was so boring, at least Logic got into it. True. Very, very true. That's the worst part about the... Okay, it's not the worst part about the Sargon tract, but at least if he was, like, funny, I could be like, I see why we did that. But no, he wasn't even funny. He's got such a stick up his butt. Ugh.
You get a traffic ticket, a guy's approaching your car and he's holding his gun? You don't find that to be a dangerous situation?
Yes, that is dangerous. I also find the person inside the vehicle who thinks that they're above the law because they have some ridiculous beliefs that it doesn't apply to them and that no one has authority over them, that's also dangerous. They're both dangerous. Did you guys see, a few weeks back, a sovereign citizen cut off a dude's head with a samurai sword? I shouldn't say cut off his head. I think he just killed him. In my head, it's cooler if he chopped his head off, samurai style. But he did kill a guy with a samurai sword. So, like, sovereign citizens are already part of sort of fringe groups. They're prone to conspiracy. So I think those kinds of people are more prone to teetering over the edge. That's why it's concerning.
How many people have been killed?
Let me see. Sovereign citizen samurai sword. Did you guys play Ghosts of Tsushima? That's a good game. Oh, he did behead him! I was right! Man accused of beheading landlord with samurai sword believes he is above the law. So he did. He beheaded his landlord with a samurai sword. Don't do that. Don't do that, folks. Not good.
2013, 2014 by cops.
People who do not believe that many of the basic laws of this country apply to them.
I'm not an American citizen. I do not recognize these. I am my counsel.
They have disrupted courtrooms, led police on high...
Now that gentleman was saying he's not an American citizen. Now if you fill out a voter registration card, you are required to sign something that states, under the penalty of perjury, through an affidavit, that you are a U.S. citizen. Now, a lot of...
Yes, and... Let's see. I've witnessed firsthand prosecutors using a person's signed voter registration card against them in a tax matter that effectively helped put that person in jail. If they were not a U.S. citizen, how would the court have jurisdiction over the person? Oh, God. Oh, no. Okay. This is a lot to unpack. So, first of all, signing your... voter registration is not what makes you a citizen. What makes you a citizen is if you were born in this country, right? If you were born in this country or if you came in and got citizenship via the lengthy process to become a naturalized U.S. citizen. There are other things too, like if you're born in another country but your parents are both citizens. There's all sorts of stuff like that. You get it, right? The fact that they're using that against them in court is specifically just because it's an obvious piece of, like, evidence. They could have used anything. And the reason it mattered here on this tax matter is because if you're not a United States citizen and you don't live here or something, then you don't necessarily need to pay taxes, right? Like the same reason I don't pay taxes to Canada, I'm not a Canadian citizen. I am, however, a United States citizen, which is why you have to pay federal taxes and the state and local taxes that apply wherever you live. So that's why that was relevant on the tax matter. The tax thing, they needed to show he was a citizen, I guess, because he was trying to say, I don't know taxes, I'm not a citizen. Well, you signed this thing. But if it was any other crime, they wouldn't even need to show that he was a citizen. You don't need to be a citizen of a specific place in order for their laws to apply to you. This is specifically relevant to the tax matter because, like, the authority to show that you need to pay taxes has relevance to whether or not you are a citizen. Okay.
A lot of people don't understand exactly what that means or the liabilities involved in that. You darn well bet there's liabilities. It's not simply a matter of saying, yes, I'm a U.S. citizen, so therefore I have a right to vote. Why would they make you sign an affidavit under a penalty of perjury that you are a U.S. citizen?
So that if you commit voter fraud, let's say you're someone, and this doesn't happen often at all, you can look up the cases of voter fraud. They happen very rarely, even though the president would like you to think otherwise. The reason is so if you get caught committing voter fraud, like let's say you were a non-citizen, like let's say I'm coming from Canada, I'm Canada Joe, and I'm like, I'm going to vote in this election. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump because I want to make America great again. Meanwhile, I'm up in Canada eating poutine or whatever. And I fill out a U.S. voter registration card. And I fill it out. Hi, I am Canada Joe. I would like to vote, please. And they, do whatever. And you come to the United States with a fake address and you fraudulently vote. That's so they can charge you. That's so they have on paper that you said, I am a U.S. citizen. Because if they didn't have that, then some idiot, if they tried to do voter fraud, would be like, well, I never said I was a U.S. citizen. You guys just gave me the registration. It makes it so that they can charge you with perjury for lying on an official government form. That's the reason. It's not to trick you into admitting you're a U.S. citizen. If you're a U.S. citizen, you're a U.S. citizen, whether you're registered to vote or not. All they need to prove you're a U.S. citizen is to see your birth certificate, or your birth record, or your social security card, or your proof of residence if you've, like, been here for a very long time. Like,
don't you think it's possible there could be some liability involved in signing something stating you are something, that you are such and...
Not if you are the thing. If you are the thing, it doesn't matter. There are 1,000,001 other ways they could have proven that person is a U.S. citizen, right? That happened to be a convenient one for them. I assume that was a record that they could get very easily. But nonetheless, if they couldn't find a voter registration, let's say that person just never registered to vote, they could find a birth certificate, they could find a social security number. Like, not complicated. If they've ever had a driver's license, if they've ever had any form of government documentation, then they can be like, yeah, you're definitely a U.S. citizen.
And such. And what does it mean to be a U.S. citizen? A great many people have never taken the time to study it. I will do a part 2 on this video soon.
Part 2. We're gonna watch this. We're gonna watch, I think there's 3 or 4 parts to this. I'm just gonna watch them all. I want to get through this today. I don't know why. I find this guy fascinating. Because he acts like he's not a sovereign citizen, and then he is. It's so weird. I'm almost down 30 pounds, by the way, since we're in kind of a lull between the videos. I took my weight today, and I'm down into the 240s, which is, I started in the 270s. So, yay me. I wish I hadn't gotten so large in the first place, but, like, I'm doing it. Yeah. Go, I mean, seriously, if you go look at, like, videos from even when I just started, I think my face has gotten a little bit thinner. I have a long way to go, but I am happy that I'm making progress. Anyway.
Okay, this is a part 2 to these.
Are you following any sort of plan? I'm just counting calories.
Sovereign Citizen Training for Law Enforcement Response series of videos here. I'll try to keep it as short as I can and just go point by point through the video. And
Thanks, Daddy Sue.
just address some of the things that's being taught in this video that I believe are misleading the public terribly regarding what the sovereign stuff is. Now, just to point out, I do not consider myself a quote sovereign citizen.
I don't consider myself a sovereign citizen. I just parrot sovereign citizen talking points while advocating for their worldview. Okay, whatever you say, bud.
But I used to be involved with these kinds of people, and I saw what they were like and what they were about. They're simply people who care about the government being completely out of control and corrupt. They're actually very pro-government people.
No, they're not. They're pro the fictional government that exists in their head, where the government protects all their rights, but they have no responsibilities in turn. That's not being pro-government. That's being anti-real-world government and pro-fantasy government they've concocted in their heads. Being pro-fantasy government isn't being pro-real-world government. They're different.
They just want government following their own laws and respecting the public's rights.
But it's not their own laws. It's a bunch of made-up stuff that you all believe. Daddy Sume, I agree with these people, understand their position, advocate for them, and stand for them all the time, but I'm not one of them.
I think that'd be a very good thing. Now what this video is doing is it's showing the 20%, which a large percent, in this movement happens to have a lot of lunatics, and they're
Guys,
suggesting
how annoying would it be if I took off my mic sock and I just talked like this all the time? Get a mic sock, dick. God. They're like $10 on Amazon. Heck, you know why they're called mic socks? You can literally take an actual sock or a couple pairs and put them over and it works just the same. Little audio tip for you folks out there. The popping, so annoying.
This movement consists of.
It's like early Bible Reloaded days, Drew.
Is this 20% or so of lunatic fringe type people, which it does not. So let me start the video.
There are an estimated 300,000 sovereign citizens in America.
Okay, they're saying there's an estimated 300,000 sovereign citizens. To clarify that, I don't know where they get that number from, but John Stossel, a very well-known reporter, I think, for ABC News, did a whole documentary on the subject matter. To say there's 300,000, I would say there's much more along the lines of many, many millions of people. They may not be labeled sovereign, but they're people who know the government is out of control and corrupt, and they became.
You can't cast You can't cast a net that wide. You can't just say anyone who thinks the government is corrupt is a sovereign citizen, because they're not. Sovereign citizens have a very specific set of beliefs. They believe that the law doesn't apply to them. They believe that they are sovereign and they don't need, like, government. Like, they think they have all the rights of a citizen, but they don't think they have the responsibilities. They don't think they need driver's licenses. They don't think they need registrations. They don't think they need to pay taxes. All sorts of crazy banana stuff. But it's a very specific belief system, right? And not all do call themselves sovereign citizens. A lot of them find the term, like, derogatory. So they're like, I'm not a sovereign citizen. And then they're a sovereign citizen in everything but name. Other people call themselves, like, Moorish citizens. And they have sort of a different set of beliefs that align very closely. Like, there are some, like, gray areas on who isn't a sovereign citizen. But it's not just anyone who doesn't agree with the government.
Victims of the government at some point when they realized the government didn't follow their own laws, and they fought back as best they could in a non-violent way. There's not 300,000 of these people. There's many, many, many millions.
I have no idea how many sovereign citizens there are in this country, or any country for that matter. They're certainly not the majority, but they do exist. Like, they exist. I think if you asked your average cop who pulls people over semi-regularly at least, they've probably run into at least a couple. Like, I think they exist just about everywhere. I don't know to what extent. You'd probably have to ask a cop, because they pull people over and they're going to have the most, like, random data set. They're going to have, you know, more on-the-ground experience, but 300,000 would make sense to me. That's enough to be a nuisance, but not so much that it's an epidemic, but it wouldn't surprise me if there were, like, 1 million either. That's, like, what, 0.3% of the population of the United States or something like that? That would sound about right. Nicto2, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime.
Millions of these kinds of people. It's just a matter of, do they do anything about it? So let's continue.
The FBI classifies them as a domestic terrorist movement. Many of these people followed a scary progression from passionate but peaceful to ultra-violent.
They will often use the label of domestic terrorism. Well, I would challenge anyone, if the government, say the judicial branch, is denying people due process.
They're not. Your thought experiment has already failed, because they are not.
Constantly, which I've witnessed many times, and denying habeas corpus, for instance. Which
I know the hum's annoying. I'm sorry. The video's only 10 minutes long.
I've also witnessed 4 times, live right in front of me. Who's the terrorist? Is it the people who are trying to exercise inherent rights, or is it the government that is trying to make sure they can't?
Terrorism has a pretty specific definition. The reason they're calling sovereign citizens terrorists is because there have been sovereign citizens that have literally, like, shot up places. There have been sovereign citizens who do, like, stuff like file false liens. Now, I think that's going too far to call that stuff terrorism. I think we have a problem in this country of calling any group we don't like, they're terrorists, and I think that's a problem. Terrorist has a pretty specific definition, and it's, like, committing large crimes, hurting people, like using, you know, weapons or whatever to instill fear for political purposes. Like, that's terrorism. I don't think it's terrorism just to, like, file false liens and commit felonies. However, there have been sovereign citizens, like I said, who have done, like, mass shootings and stuff, and that's arguably terrorism.
Sovereign is an individual that interprets the Constitution of the United States differently. Sovereigns believe.
Now, I apologize, there's some noise in the background. What the person speaking on the video was saying, these are people who interpret the Constitution differently. Well,
I don't know, the fear of false liens sounds pretty real. I understand it's wrong, and it's still a crime, it's still a felony, but I don't think that's terrorism, right? Like, if all ISIS did was, like, we're gonna file false liens on you, that wouldn't be terrorism. Although there is a term called paper terrorism that gets applied to sovereign citizens sometimes, where they'll, like, if they're in a court, they'll file so many, like, false motions and, like, crazy documents that mean nothing that it gums up the system, and it effectively, like, makes it non-functional, and that's called paper terrorism. Again, I think applying the word terrorism to that is a bit excessive, but, you know, it is what people call it nonetheless.
I don't even know where to go with that. There's lots of different ways of interpreting the Constitution, I suppose. I guess what I would say is, yeah, again, I don't consider myself associated with these people anymore.
You fucked up.
I do consider myself associated.
He said we. He admitted he is one. Good job.
With people who are concerned. We do perhaps interpret the Constitution differently, just in that we believe in the inherent rights that it offers through its protections.
No, you don't. You believe in specific ways of interpreting it that allow you to do anything you want without having to answer to the law. You know what interpretation of the Constitution matters in terms of the law?
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
The one that the courts have made. Whether it's the Supreme Court or your local court that's made decisions that apply to your specific case, those are the interpretations of the Constitution that matter under the law. Your interpretation, personally, that's your own business. That's fine. You can believe whatever you want about the Constitution. But if the law, as put forth and interpreted by judges, says a certain thing, then that's what the law is in this country, because that's the entire role of the judiciary branch. It's to interpret laws, and the Constitution is the founding document of the laws in this country. Cascadia 93, no pop filter, not capturing your screen, no soundproofing and blasting a fan, but we should take him seriously. Daddy Sume, lots of different ways of interpreting, but your way doesn't matter. Yep.
That the United States government is not a legitimate government, but is a corporation. So they will not have a driver's license.
Okay, so the idea of the corporation. Now, this is something that the sovereign folks, of course, can't prove.
Because it's not true. Because it's not true. Sovereign citizens, at least many of them, believe that the United States isn't actually a country anymore, that it has become a corporation. This is not true. I shouldn't have to say that, but it's not true. The United States is not a corporation. It's a country. Same with your states and local governments. They're not corporations. They're government entities. What does that even mean? They believe that the United States is a for-profit corporation. They just think it sounds scary. Like, oh, they're using their citizens to make money. Well, money for whom? Who's getting paid off of this? You know, it just sounds scary. They saw Blade Runner or RoboCop, and they're like, oh, the government's a corporation now. I know that's bad, but I don't know why. It would be bad. But it's not the case, so...
But what I would say, and I'm not going to expand upon this right now, but if you read the stat...
Part of the interpretation comes down to there's some document somewhere that talks about the United States and United States corporations, it says. And being the opportune word here. They think it means like, oh, this means the United States is a corporation. It doesn't. It means it applied to the United States as a governmental entity and United States corporations. There are such things called United States corporations. They're basically corporations set up by the federal government. An example of this would be the FDIC. The FDIC is the Federal Deposit Insurance Company. So, like, your bank, if your bank, like, loses all its money, the money you had in that bank is insured up to $100,000 per account, I think. So, if, like, something like the Great Depression happened and there were runs on banks and the bank ran out of liquid capital, the FDIC would step in and be able to reimburse people Is it $250,000 now? I thought at one point it was 100. Maybe they upped the limit. Either way, that is a corporation that has been set up by the government, but it's not the government. It's its own thing that is operated by the government. That makes sense? Okay. There are other examples. That's just the one I think most people have heard of.
Statutes, you can discern within the statutes, and again, I'm not going to go into details here because it's just heavy-duty stuff involving the interpretation of the words used in statute. By the way, we have Black's Law Dictionary and we have Webster's Law Dictionary. I'm going to expand upon that briefly. Why would we have two dictionaries? Why are two needed? Within that...
Okay, like, I could say the same thing about, like, why is there multiple dictionaries for normal words?
There's nothing
like,
funny
there
about
just
the
are.
tools of
Different
capitalism.
companies make different things for different reasons. Like, Black's Law Dictionary is not, like, made by the federal government. It's just like a law dictionary. I assume a company puts it out and has for the past over 100 years or whatever. Like, different companies will produce different dictionaries because they want people to buy theirs and they make a profit off of it. That's how it works. Cascadia 93. Like many conspiracy theorists, they're so close, then at the last turn on the highway, they instead build a spaceship and fly to the moon. There are several editions, too. Yeah, I don't remember what edition they're on now. Black's Law Dictionary. 11th edition on Amazon. Looks like the most recent edition was published in 2019. They are on the 11th edition of Black's Law Dictionary. Brian A. Garner is an American lawyer, lexicographer, and teacher who has written more than 24 books about English. Oh, did he write the recent editions of Black's Law Dictionary? That's pretty cool. Wow, he's written editions 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Wow. What a prolific law scholar. That's pretty cool. Anyway, like, these publishing companies put it out. The first edition was put out by St. Paul, Minnesota, West Publishing, West.